Hey there, greetings and welcome to the Conscious Webpreneur Show. I'm Devin Slavin, founder of Conscious Webpreneur and a online business coach and consultant. I am really excited to bring our special guest here on the show today, talking all about, many different things, including how to make meditation fun and build your daily practice. So really, meditation is very important to me, so I'm excited to dive into this topic. And before I welcome our guest on, I just want to give a couple of tips here for those of you who can join us, who are able to join us live for the show. If you're able to join us live, I suggest that you shut down any additional programs or browser tabs that you're not using, because this is a live HD feed. And if you do have any questions, you're welcome to use the chat feature at any time during the show. And if we have a chance at the end of the show, we'll do some Q&A. So I just want to let you know, if you're on a mobile device, you may not see that chat, but I wanted to let you know both to shut down any external programs that might hog the bandwidth, and also that you can use the chat for Q&A. We'll get back to that. So with that, I'm excited to begin this show, and let me give a formal introduction to our guest here. All right, our special guest today is Dada Dada, I've got to read your name slowly here. Nabhaniilananda.
Not bad.
Probably correct me. Oh, thank you. And he's born in New Zealand, was ordained as an Ananda Marga yoga monk in 1979. He's a meditation practitioner and teacher, an author, musician, and corporate keynote speaker. I want to hear more about that too, by the way. He has spoken or performed in many more than 40 countries, including Brazil, where he appeared on stage with the Dalai Lama, and 1992 at the Earth Summit. So Dada currently lives in California, where he teaches a course on meditation, which is about, a technology for conscious evolution, which I love that topic, meditation as a technology. And he's teaching that at UC Berkeley, currently working on his second comic fantasy adventure novel. What? Oh, this is so awesome. So Dada helps connect people with their inner source of love, creativity, wisdom, using music, meditation, and humor. And you can contact him through his website at themonkdude.com. So it sounds like, if you didn't already know, he is also a monk. So at this point in time, I would love to welcome our special guest, Dada, to the show. Hello there, Dada.
Hi, Devin. Thanks so much for inviting me. It's great to be talking with you again.
Yeah, it's great to be talking with you. I know I love it. Our paths have crossed over and over again over the years, and now we've finally had an opportunity to collaborate online. And like we said earlier in the pre-chat, hopefully get to meet each other in person. That would be the best. Yeah, meet each other soon.
Yeah, well, we're not far away. I'm just an hour and a half away from you, probably up in South Bay.
It's amazing, isn't it? I love it. I'm excited. So we'll have to do that soon. I just wanted to start off, again, thanks for joining us. And just wanted to start off, you have just an incredible, diverse background, obviously, in reading your bio. I'd love to hear some of your story and have you share your story with our audience today. And, how did you get where you are today in being a monk and a songwriter and meditation teacher and keynote speaker and author? Like, what are some of the key things that happened along your life that brought you here today?
Yeah, my life has kind of taken me by surprise repeatedly. If you had told me when I was, 11 years old or something, that I would end up being a monk and a meditation teacher, I would have thought you'd lost your last marble. This wasn't my plan, believe me.
Right.
Around that age, what I really wanted was I wanted to become a wizard. And my older brother convinced me that he was a wizard, so I kind of applied to be his apprentice, and that was one phase. And then I'd been playing music since I was really young, and so I went through a phase of wanting to be a rock star, like every teenage musician does, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it was when I was in my first year at university in Wellington, in New Zealand, that I had a very extraordinary kind of spiritual experience, an epiphany, and that really woke up in me the desire to walk the spiritual path. And I started exploring meditation, reading about mysticism, and I pretty quickly ended up leaving it all behind and going to India and becoming a yogi and a monk. And I studied under an amazing spiritual master. His name was Sri Anandamurti. And what I learned there was, okay, finally I had a kind of life purpose that actually made sense. Being a wizard or a rock star is, it's okay for a kid, but this was something that was actually useful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's an amazing story, and I find it so interesting to reflect on the fact that actually you're very close to both of those things. It's not too far off of that.
Kind of way. Well, I just wrote a book about wizards and dragons and princesses and alien octopuses, and so at least I wrote a book about a wizard. And I've done a lot of performing and recording with music, so I've ended up I have played rock concerts and sort of got it out of my system to some degree, and I still do that a bit. I've got a concert next Friday. It should be fun.
Oh, that's exciting.
But I don't, that's not my first thing. My first thing is really teaching people about meditation, how to practice meditation, and how to incorporate music into it, because they really go together well.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I haven't had many experiences where where I incorporated the two together. That's interesting. I'm used to silent meditation or meditation out in nature, where it's, instead of going inward, going outward and inward at the same time. But I love the idea of meditation and music together. Would you like to speak more to that concept?
Yeah, well, what I'd really like to do is sing about it, but we're not quite set up for that. But
right.
My idea about music is it's kind of the language of emotion. Excuse me. So, we speak usually with words, and they have fairly specific meanings. Music, if you listen to a piece of classical music, for example, with no words, what's it about, actually? It's sort of, but you sense that it's about something. So usually that kind of music, whether it's Indian classical music or Western classical music or from some other tradition, it's designed to take you on an emotional journey. Much like the music in a movie. The background music in a movie, you don't notice it usually. But if you take it away, there's something missing. The whole thing's flat.
Right.
Because the music is what creates this kind of emotional background to the story. So music has this amazing power to induce emotion, or to awaken certain different types of emotions. And we experience that all the time. You get back from work, maybe you're tired, you're maybe not feeling so great. You put on your favorite piece of music, nice and loud, and immediately your mood changes.
Right.
So what's happening there is that the sound waves, if you like, are interacting with your nervous system and creating a kind of resonance in your body and in your chakras, if you're into that kind of thing, and setting off these emotions and moods. So the music can actually directly induce mood. So in meditation, we often use chanting or music leading into the silent meditation. So one leads to the next. So to create the mood, we might have a sort of piece of music or some chanting or singing, and then you sit for silent meditation. So it makes it much easier, because you're not just going straight from doing whatever you're doing on the internet or at work or arguing with your boss. Suddenly you're supposed to sit and be peaceful. It's not reasonable. We don't work like that. You can't suddenly change your mood like that unless you have something to help you. The music helps you to take you into the mood, so then you can meditate.
Oh, I love that. I everything that you just shared there is so cool. It was a bit about new things for me, and also things that really resonated with what my life experience and my relationship to music. One example of it is, one of the things I love to do is ecstatic dance, which is basically, a free form. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but just in case our audience isn't, it's a free form dance space where everyone's just dancing and moving however they are moved by the music and by the moment, expressing themselves. And so it's a bit chaotic, but if you look into it, if you tune into it, everyone's just kind of moving at their own pulse and rhythm, in tune with the music. But you know, so there's a lot to say about that, just expressing our joy through the dance and things. But one of the things I've experienced is an almost accidental meditation after the dance, because there's so much music, so much joy, and such a great experience. And in the calmness afterwards, oftentimes there's no words, and everyone's just, the dance is done, but everyone's just standing or sitting there or whatever they're doing in silence, and there's just a state of reverence. So that makes tons of sense to me in bringing that into one's meditation practice as a way to start. So that's really cool.
I think that's why people like ecstatic dance, because it's a way to induce some kind of spiritual experience,
right.
a deep, powerful, emotional, uplifting experience. And it's interesting what you're describing is almost like, have you ever heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
I actually haven't, but I'm curious.
Well, you probably haven't. But he was a Hindu saint, you could say, who invented the mantra which everybody in the world knows now, the Hare Krishna mantra. The Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, right? He was this saint in India. I think he lived about maybe 600 years ago, maybe 800 years ago. I should know, but anyway, he started this chanting thing, and people would go into ecstasy, and there's big stories around him. And one of the things I love about him is that he was very much opposed to the caste system, and he wouldn't discriminate against anybody on the basis of their religion or their social background. So he accepted anybody as a disciple, even if they were so-called untouchables, or if they were Muslims. He had no problem as long as they were, you know, the right kind of person. And that brought a lot of persecution on him. But anyway, he was the guy who came up with this. It was like this spiritual ecstatic dance, pretty much as you described.
Oh, that's cool. I'd love to learn more about it. I'll have to check out what, you know, if there's any teachings from him or resources or things written down. I'm sure
there's a lot of stories around his life and that, but the modern version of that is the Hare Krishna movement, and that they've sort of interpreted it in a particular way, which I might have some different ideas about, but he sort of started that. And so we haven't, I mean, we do something in my practice. We also include dance, with chanting. Cool. And that leads into, and when you got a big group, sometimes it goes on for 5 days.
Wow. Wait, 5 days?
And then during that, people are coming and going, but you know, the chant and the dance thing is going on for, you know, several days, and it creates this amazing atmosphere. I've had some incredible experiences in those situations.
Probably somewhat beyond words, right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I have a question for you. Do you, if you don't mind transitioning just a bit? Yeah. Question about meditation. So obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. That's why I'm actually bringing up the question. You know, you have worked with clients, you know, Cisco Systems, Google, Facebook, and I'm assuming that you're teaching about meditation there, and also the philosophies behind it, and maybe doing music. But I'm curious if you could speak a little bit about why meditation is such an important thing, and why you were working with these companies and what you were doing there. Can you speak to that a bit?
Sure. It's been pretty exciting. The last really 2 or 3 years, I've started doing sort of corporate speaking. Which is you know, I said my life's taken me by surprise. This was not a direction that I ever expected to go in. I've always been a kind of a socialist, and you know, my mother was really kind of anti-capitalist, and I sort of grew up with that thing. But here I am living in Silicon Valley, the heart of global capitalism, going and teaching meditation in these companies. But you know, the people working in these companies, well, for a start, I think they're not arms manufacturers. You know, they're creating, you know, a world of well, they're creating something we don't know where it's going to take us, actually. Right. And it's got some good and some bad. But the people working in those companies have problems like everybody else. And of course, the most obvious problem most people complain about nowadays is stress. And, coming from a number of different sources. One is overwork. Actually, and this is one of the criticisms I have of the corporate culture, and I'm certainly not the first one to point this out, that they really do put too much pressure on the people working for them, and it causes a lot of problems and a lot of unhappiness. So meditation is now understood to be a very effective way to help people to deal with that. So that's one of the reasons why it's become very acceptable there, because the research that's become possible, again, because of technology. Some of the same companies, or the nearby universities like Stanford, have developed fMRI scanners, so we can actually measure what's happening inside a living brain for the first time. And some of the research that's been done has taken that technology and EEG, measuring brain waves, combining that, and really getting some idea of what happens when we meditate and the kind of changes that go on in our brains that result from that. And what they've demonstrated is really extraordinary. It's well, firstly, it's confirmed that what people think is happening when they're meditating, that is, they feel more peaceful, more calm, more relaxed, happier, more able to feel love. It really is happening, which is a bit crazy, because of course it's really happening, because those are feelings that people experience, but we don't believe it until you can somehow measure it in a laboratory or. So, people have been meditating to get that effect for 7,000 years or more, but some people didn't kind of believe it was really anything more than imagination until very recently. But now it's undeniable.
Right. And
so the science has made it really clear that this works, and that's opened the door to companies like Cisco and Facebook and all sorts of companies. About 23% of US companies apparently have some kind of meditation program on their campus right now. In fact, that's old information. That's 2 years old, so it's going to be more than that. So it's because we've got a crisis of mental health, of stress, and it's not just stress, or it's not just overwork that causes stress. I actually think that the main cause of stress is people being unsatisfied on an emotional level, lacking love.
Interesting.
I think when people are not sure whether they're really loved, or we're not able to express love, that actually causes very, very deep stress. And but if you're emotionally fulfilled and you don't have you really feel this kind of deep, I'd say spiritual happiness, you can handle all kind of stress. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting when you talk about that. It's like I've had moments in life after different, trying to think of what those times are. It might be a really amazing ecstatic dance, or it might be, one of the things that I do and have had a background is participating in sweat lodge. And after different ceremonies, I'll come out and it's like, where did the problems go? Where did my stresses go? It's like, how does all this work? I mean, it's beyond my comprehension even, but there's something that is like, I might focus on all of these things to eliminate stress, but there's something beyond that, which is just like being in the space where somehow the stress just didn't exist. So I don't know what that is, but I just know I've experienced something like that.
Well, the stress is caused by your reaction. Right? You take Viktor Frankl. He was famously in jail. He went through terrible suffering, but he was able to step back from it and come out of that with incredible wisdom and this realization. And he wrote his famous book, Man's Search for Meaning. So another person in that same concentration camp, most of them crushed them, but for him, his response was such that he grew from it. So they were all in the same environment. They were all subjected to the same terrible pressures, but they'd responded differently. So the stress is actually caused by your response.
Wow.
So if you come, if somebody comes along and insults you or says something really nasty, if you don't react, if you really don't react on internally, you say, well, I don't care because I know they're an idiot, or that it doesn't matter why, or maybe you're Buddha and it all rolls off you. You're not stressed.
Right.
So the stress isn't actually coming from the outside; it's coming from the inside. It's your reaction, and that's why by changing your state of mind and developing this kind of emotional buoyancy that can come with a sustained meditation practice, or it can come from having a really fantastic mother. I mean, it can come in different ways, right? But if you have that, you have a kind of immunity to the stressful circumstance, what most people would, call a stressful environment. So that's the stuff I talk about in these corporations a little bit, but I focus more on the whole thing of developing love and creativity and wisdom rather than seeing meditation as a means to dealing with stress. I pitch it to them, if you like, as a way of developing these inner qualities that'll make your life rich and fulfilling and make you a better person rather than just someone who can handle being overworked.
Right. So it's rather than treating some kind of symptom, really going at the root cause of it and going way beyond it into creating a life that we really enjoy and thrive in. Well, that's amazing. Wow. So, gosh, where do we go from here? I'm thinking so many different things. I love how you mentioned, I want what you just talked about. It's not about just having that stress, my day-to-day stress be gone, but to be in that state, just to have, what did you use the word buoyancy?
Emotional buoyancy. Yeah.
Emotional buoyancy, and how meditation can create that. That's something that I'm very interested in. Would you mind speaking more to that? I'm assuming other people, I know people are other people. I'm getting the special treatment here asking you questions, but I know other people are wondering the same thing.
Well, yeah, I think everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to feel love. Everybody wants to feel fulfilled, and that life is, we sense that, right, there's this richness in life that we can enjoy, but it's not, we don't always get it fully. So I think everybody wants that on some level. So how can meditation help you to get that? Well, I think the first thing to understand is that it takes more than just sitting for meditation. I think meditation's key because it's a tool that helps you to gain control of your mind and begin to develop your innate potential in all sorts of ways. I mean, basically, most of our potentialities come from our minds. We've changed the world with our minds. We've created this, for better or worse, we've built this global civilization with our minds. I mean, we've used our hands. Okay, we've got opposable thumbs. That helps. Dolphins are smart too. But, we need something. We need to be able to act it out. But the ideas that have created, cultures and music and, literature and civilizations originated in the mind. So it's an extraordinarily powerful thing. And if we can gain control over it, then we can really start to steer our lives in the direction that we want to steer it in. And meditation is, from one perspective, a way of developing control over your own mind. I remember a really neat talk by Amma. She's a wonderful lady saint. She's known as the hugging saint. You might have heard of her. So she comes to the Bay Area pretty often. She lives in India mostly, I think. But she was giving this talk at Stanford, or she was being interviewed actually by a friend of mine. And she said, I was talking to a group of managers, and I said to them, how can you expect to manage 500 people in your company? How can you expect to manage 500 minds when you can't even manage your own mind?
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's so simple, but it's so true, right?
Right.
So meditation, you can see, as a way of learning how to manage your own mind, in the best sense. And so how it works, essentially, meditation is a kind of concentration. It's the deliberate focusing of your attention on a particular idea, and that can bring about stillness, which I know you've experienced, and from what you've told me of your meditating in nature, or you can really feel that, right? And that comes from from focusing, paying attention from being in the now, as they say, or being mindful. So that's a very important part of meditation. I would say you could say meditation starts with this trying to adopt this sort of attitude of mindfulness, being in the present.
Mm-hmm.
In what I call spiritual meditation, which that's a term I use to distinguish it from just from concentration. In spiritual meditation, the idea that we adopt, that we focus on, is something that's described as larger than the self. So it's really a contemplation of consciousness. Now, this gets a little esoteric, but what I want to let's see, where is it familiar? Okay, there's one thing that you and I share, and that every human being shares. And as far as I can see, there's really only one thing we all share. We've got separate bodies, so we're physically distinct. We've got separate minds. We have a whole different set of emotions and talents and hopes and dreams and history. So we're separate on the mental level. But on the innermost level of just knowing that we exist, we seem to be the same. We all know that we exist. Right? At least I know I exist. I'm assuming that you do know that you exist, right? So this is the most fundamental, the most fundamental part of you, if you like, is this self-awareness. And that's what we focus on in spiritual meditation. So rather than, you might begin focusing on the breath, but we go beyond that to really focusing on the sense of being. And as distinct from your thoughts. So you think about, I'm thinking. Who's doing the thinking? Thoughts aren't you. The thoughts are something you're doing, an activity. But the person who's doing the thinking is what we're focusing on, the I.
Right.
There was a great saint in India. His name was Ramana Maharishi. And his meditation that he taught and practiced was very simple. He just taught people to ask themselves, who am I?
Oh, it's so interesting that you mentioned that. I just came across, I just read a book recently called the Surrender Experiment with Michael Singer. Have you heard? I'm sure you heard of him.
I know there's too many books on this. I haven't read that one.
Oh, okay, great. So Michael Singer, the Surrender Experiment, and he talks about, he mentioned that same exact thing. He said that was one of the core teachings. If you just essentially contemplate and meditate on who am I, that it is kind of open this doorway of dimensions into just being in the moment, and that there is no answer. We can come up with different thoughts, different, oh, I'm Devin, I'm a business coach, I'm all these concepts, but it's really not who we are at our essence. There is no answer, essentially. So anyway, I just think that's really interesting that you brought that up. Seems to be a common theme.
This is you'll read about this idea in quite a lot of deeper meditation books, for sure, because it's so fundamental. it's the kind of first existential question. But so it can be used as a meditation technique. It's not something I would teach people to start off with. I'll talk about it in the beginning, but it's something they might really start getting into a little later on, because as I said earlier, for me, the first thing is to get people to actually practice.
Right.
Before they're going to be feeling the benefit. And if you give them something a little difficult in the beginning, then less likely to continue. So that practice, the who am I idea, or really using that as a contemplation, that comes a little later. What I use in the beginning is music. Even when I go into places like Facebook, I'll get everybody there to sing. And they're not used to that, right? Because they've already invited this weird guy dressed in orange, I can kind of get away with a little bit more than maybe somebody else who was there in a suit and tie. So I push it a little, and I always get them to sing.
Wow.
And the feedback I get is, I remember the first corporate talk I gave was for Cisco, and it was a big event. It was their distribution conference for marketing for the Americas, both North and South, and it was at a big fancy hotel, and I was there, and it was it was a bit of a fish out of water, it seemed like, but I remember just after I gave my presentation, we did a little singing and meditation. And one of the senior directors came to me and she said, Dada, I want to thank you. That, just 3 or 4 minutes of meditation was the first time I'd felt peace in months.
Wow.
And that, you can imagine how that made me feel. On the one hand, I felt, wow, this is really worthwhile. I've been able to, give her a taste of something really important. But at the same time, I felt kind of pain because I thought this very nice woman, she's suffering kind of unnecessarily. There's a way out of this. And she actually became a student of mine later, and I was able to help guide her into a regular meditation practice. So that's the key, is a regular meditation practice. It can help people to connect with this deeper part of themselves where the happiness and peace and love comes from in the first place.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, it comes, you've got to revisit it every day. Because we're always being distracted by the world.
Yeah.
And now we're doubly distracted by another layer of reality, by all these kind of little, windows into the universe of information. My friend of mine calls them weapons of mass distraction.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So all of that's pulling our attention away from ourselves. And meditation is redirecting your attention towards your inner self, where you'll find peace. You're not going to get it anywhere else, I don't think.
Right. Well, this is really great here, and I think there's something that's implied here. You spoke to the advanced concepts, things that you do down the road, but thinking about the woman who experienced peace, or one of my experiences with meditation is sometimes I've had incredible experiences, and then it's hard to do on my own. Going back, I mean, I might have, I actually do it nearly every day in some form, but I was really excited to talk to you about meditation, and love that you suggested the concept of making meditation fun, because I think of, if something's fun, well, that's going to make it really easy to do every day. So I think that's brilliant, and I'm wondering if you be up for going into that what you found in terms of making meditation fun, or even just easy to do every day. What are your experiences with that? Because I had to, my job is to get other people to meditate. And of course I have to meditate myself first, because otherwise I can't tell other people what to do. Right.
But my job is to really inspire people and motivate them to practice. And of course give the, details of the instruction. But, as most teachers probably understand, a great deal of teaching is about motivating your students. So making the practice enjoyable, of course, makes it a lot easier. So some of the ways that I have found that meditation becomes more enjoyable, we've talked about some of them already, of course, music, dance,
right?
Because these they create a good feeling. And so I think the first thing I like to emphasize to people when we're talking about meditation is it's more about feeling than about thinking or not thinking. One of the main reasons why people have trouble concentrating or finding peace is because their minds are too busy, they're thinking too much. So I think to approach that as an intellectual problem, or I'm going to think my way out of this, is probably not going to work. So that's why I sort of say, okay, let's sidestep that and approach it from the perspective of emotion, how to change how you feel.
Right.
So dance and music are an incredibly effective way of changing how you feel very quickly. So that's one way to approach that. Now, if you're meditating on your own, you're probably not going to be dancing in a group because you're on your own.
Yeah.
But I've created a program of recorded music, really beautiful recordings I made with some much better musicians than me. I'm not a bad musician, but I know some really good musicians. And I worked with them, and we've made some beautiful recordings that I have built into this program it's an 8-week online course. So ideally you join a meditation group and you meet a teacher regularly and you practice with other human beings. So if you have that opportunity, do that. But if you don't, or if it's not something you can do every week, this program is so that you can practice every day at home and you've got something to make it interesting. So the music is there. I also build in jokes and stories into all my teaching. So, and that's what most teachers do. That if you tell stories, then people really get it, and they relate to it. They feel, okay, that could be me. And I use cartoons. I have a couple of friends who are really talented. Okay, I'll say spiritual cartoonists. Leah Pearlman, she lives in San Francisco. She writes this thing called Dharma Comics, which I recommend. And she has these lovely, simple drawings that just immediately I get it. Like there's a neat one. It's just a drawing. I can't show it to you, but I think I can describe it. It's just a drawing of a head, an outline of a head, and the head's got a big maze in it. Like one of those drawn mazes, and there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of alternatives, and just a little thing under saying, this is where I get lost. Okay, so sometimes, a picture, or a joke, or a story, or a piece of music, or a dance experience. All of these things can make the work part, which is the sitting there and concentrating, easier, more enjoyable, more of an emotional experience, rather than a frustrating, trying not to think experience.
Nice.
The other thing I recommend, well, you actually reminded me of this, is picking a really nice place to meditate.
Oh, yeah.
You meditate in nature. It's a no-brainer, right? If you've got a chance. If you've got a spot where you can go regularly, I'm lucky enough to live near some forest, and I love to meditate by a stream if the weather's good enough, or it makes a lot of difference. So it makes the experience more special. It helps you to get into the mood much more easily. So you don't have to meditate in a boring place. You can go somewhere nice.
There you go.
There's lots of things like that to just, do everything to enhance it. And then the technique itself. Now, I honestly think that there are kind of boring techniques and more interesting techniques. And I'm getting into kind of dangerous ground here because I don't want to criticize anybody else's teaching methods.
Sure.
I'll tell you what I do.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
And that is, I teach a method of mantra meditation. So a mantra is a word or a phrase that you focus on, repeat mentally. And when you're chanting, you repeat it out loud with music. And so you can start by chanting or listening to that, and then you go into the silent meditation. And so you're repeating, you're focusing on this phrase. Now, some teachers will say that, you can use a mantra like that and you just repeat it, and the sound vibration of the mantra within your mind gives you the desired effect. I think that's only partially true. I think the meaning of the mantra is also very important. And there's this kind of saying, the power of positive thinking. As you think, so you become. I think there's a lot of truth in that. So what we focus on, what we associate with the mantra is important. So the mantras that we teach in the yoga tradition I come from always have a very uplifting, positive, kind of cosmic meaning. So you're sitting there sort of contemplating the mysteries of the universe is more interesting than sitting there repeating something that's meaningless.
Right.
And that makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference, actually.
So that kind of one of the ways that plays out. So there, you're speaking the mantra out loud, or even singing it.
Well, you start by singing
it repeatedly.
Yeah.
And then when you transition at some point to silence,
yeah,
you're continuing that vibration or continuing that thought or that mantra as you meditate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
And it works really well. People often, another example, I gave this talk at Facebook, and one of the ladies came to me afterwards and said, look, I've been trying to meditate for a couple of years now, just watching my breath or something like that. And she said, it's been like kind of herding cats. Like my mind's busy, it keeps thinking, I really can't control it, and I mean, it's helping me, but I'm not really enjoying it. This is what I got from her. And she said this time, just with the music and the mantra, and then just with the silent mantra meditation afterwards, she said for the first time she really felt something. You know, trying to remember her exact words, but I think she essentially said, this is the first time I really felt it. So again, it's the emotional thing. You've got to, you know, if you want meditation to be fun, you've got to get away from just thinking it's about thinking or about not thinking. It's about feeling.
I love that, because I tend to be a very, I don't know, it sounds weird to say an emotional person, but emotions really move me in one direction or another. It's like how I feel about something will motivate me to do it or not, or resist it. Yeah, so I'm loving the direction of this conversation. I have a bunch more questions, but we're getting close to coming up on the end of our time. So I'd love to do two things if we can fit them both in. But number one, I'd love to hear more about your course and your offering and how people can find that, and you know, what anything you'd like to share. And then if we have, I know we have a couple of questions from the audience, if we can get to that afterwards. So would you like to share a bit more about your course and how we can find it?
Sure. So my online course is called the Close Your Eyes Meditation Course. And it's based on a book that I wrote some years ago. It's called Close Your Eyes and Open Your Mind, and a practical guide to spiritual meditation. So that book's been used, I've used it for years. It's in 12 languages. It's been used by teachers all over the world. So I took the sort of essence of that. I'd also written a workbook that goes with it and created a series of guided meditation recordings with music and chanting that I've been talking about. So all of that content I've put into this 8-week online course. And it goes through the 8 main topics that I teach in the book about how to withdraw, addressing questions, how to develop how to begin to develop a good habit, how to deal with, you know, improving your habits and take it one step at a time, and don't beat yourself up if it's not perfect, and all the simple psychological stuff. And actually, as a consultant, I had my niece, because she's got a PhD in psychology, and she's specialized in behavior change. And so she helped me to take my teaching content and create a program that will really help people to change their own behavior and create a habit of meditating every day. It's the whole objective of the course. And so it's fed to, you know, the students one piece every day. So it's a small lesson. You get us an email with some links to the audio files and maybe some video clips or just a little teaching piece. And the main thing is the actual meditation practice, which is a recorded audio that you listen to, and then it goes into the silent piece. So it's a 30-minute lesson every day for 8 weeks. And the idea is that you do this and you'll have the habit of meditating every day. And it's, you know, it's content I've worked with for many years, but this is a new format for it, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, great. Well, you've definitely gotten me excited about it. I'm going to have to check this out because I'm one of those people that had really appreciates the importance of meditation, has gotten a lot from it, but has had a wavering practice. So it sounds like it's something just for me.
You are my perfect target audience, because there's a lot of people now, they know meditation's good, right? And they want to incorporate it into their lives, and they've tried it, but getting that habit is not so easy. So this is to help people with that challenge. So I think I've used this material to help a lot of people with that. Now, where can you get it? Well, the easiest thing is probably to go to my website, themonkdude.com. I'll just put that in the chat, shall I?
Yeah, please do. I love it. Do you usually get to chuckle every time you? I should do a more fun name to my website, so I get to like laugh.
It's well, you know, it drops the barrier, because some people have this idea of a monk as somebody very serious who perhaps takes themselves a little too seriously. I'm fortunate not to suffer from that, and I don't want people to think that I do. So this helps to sort of drop that barrier that, you know, being dressed in orange and maybe looking a bit different, it puts up a bit of a barrier. Then they see I'm called the monk dude. They think, okay, this guy can laugh at himself. I can talk to him. So I've founded a great brand. And then if you're on the program live, there's a link I've put in the chat there, which takes you straight to the the page where you can actually read all about the product, the sort of course in detail, and you can buy it if you want. And it's for the next 4 days. Now, what are we today? Wednesday. 3 days. We're doing a launch, so it's available at half price. So
wow. Okay.
Normally it's $197 for the whole course, but this week until Friday at midnight, when you turn into a pumpkin, if you don't buy it, it's $97. So that's
so cool.
Program.
Well, that's great. So yeah, so those of you who are on here with us live, you can check the links right there. And if you're checking the recording, you can find them along with in your email, and I'll post this on the show as well. So we'll get this out there right away. So I'm excited about that. And I know we're on the edge of time. We've actually gone a little bit over already. Do you have time to maybe answer one question or two here?
Of course.
Okay, great. Great. I know this is actually a complex question, multiple part question that came in, but I'm gonna, let's see. Do I read the whole thing? Okay, I think I'm gonna read the whole thing, and I don't expect you to answer all of it because it's a lot, but I think as much as you can, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
So we had a question that came in and says, in my meditation, sometimes I'm feeling drowsiness and curious what the reason is behind this and how to overcome it. So feeling drowsy and what's the reason in overcoming it? And also, is there a way to bring more bliss and relaxation in the meditation? Something about if I'm out away from home from long hours and return back not in the mood, how to bring back that state. I think you already spoke to that part of the question about how to bring it back. But then, and this seems like someone who's familiar with yoga and meditation, so asanas, with yoga, if that's something to be performed before or after meditation. So again, drowsiness, what's the reason, how to overcome it, how to bring more bliss and relaxation, what to do if we're not in the mood, and where do asanas play in the picture?
That's not a question, that's an essay.
Yeah,
okay.
someone's getting some
they're good. They're very good points.
Coaching here.
I'll try and touch them all, briefly. So drowsiness is a problem for people once they get past the fried brain stage, which they probably came in with. So, most people's minds are too busy and they can't fall asleep easily. Once you start developing some sort of relaxation and your meditation starts working and you're practicing regularly, many people go through this stage where they start falling asleep. It can be an indication that you're not getting enough sleep. That's one possibility, and it's pretty common. But another is that it can be a kind of a habit that you've fallen into. And I actually went through a phase like this after I'd been meditating for, I think, a couple of years. And I got into this kind of rut where I kept falling asleep, and I was so annoyed with myself. And I went through something a little bit harsh to break out of it. I went and sat the very early morning when it was cold on some rocks by the river, and I meditated for an hour without moving. And it was really hard. And it cracked the pattern. It was gone. I didn't fall asleep in my meditation after that. So that's the kind of rugged approach, sort of personal boot camp approach. That's one way to do it. Another one is don't get too comfortable. So warm air is the enemy of concentration. I always, when I'm running retreats, I'll often open the windows, and even if it's a bit cold, and make sure there's plenty of fresh air and it's a little bit cold and people complain, and I tell them to shut up and close their eyes and meditate, because they came there to meditate and you need to concentrate, and cold air is your friend. And cold water. So washing your face and hands and that with cold water before you sit for meditation, so you feel fresh, that helps a lot. So there's a few little tips. There's a whole lot more, I don't want to. I want to look at some of the other ones. You want to feel more bliss in your meditation. Well, really, again, the music thing, because it's an emotional thing, a devotional, emotional. But chanting is the way to bliss, I think, especially in a group or in a long, like a 5-day. If you're really serious, we're running a 5-day chanting, meditation, and yoga retreat over the New Year in Austin, Texas. If you want to experience bliss, come and join us. I can guarantee it, actually. I think I can safely say I guarantee it.
Oh, that's a deal.
So the group energy is very, very powerful if you want to really get a taste of intense bliss. You're kind of riding on that wave that's created by the whole group.
Mm.
And the music and the chanting and the dancing brings that all together and kind of channels it. That works. It's very powerful. You've had a taste of that in your ecstatic dance. You kind of know what I mean. Well, imagine that kind of more organized and directed.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great.
So then, what was the next one? Asanas, yoga asanas. Oh, there's something else.
Oh, the work. Yeah. So coming home from work frustrated and having trouble doing.
Well, as I said, use music to change your mood. That's the simple, short, easy answer to that. There are other things, but that would be the first thing I would suggest. And the last one was about yoga postures. So, yeah, yoga postures they go together with meditation. I usually practice mine after the meditation. But when I teach beginners, I usually get them to do their yoga postures first.
Interesting.
And the reason is that they're usually they need to do the yoga postures just to bring themselves into a kind of state of relaxation so they can meditate more easily. When you've been meditating for a while, you don't really need that, and it actually, I think, works better the other way around. You meditate first and then do the yoga postures afterwards. So if you're an reasonably experienced meditator and you don't feel like you need the yoga postures to sort of bring you into that kind of calmness, I would actually suggest you do them after the meditation.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, I'm glad those questions are asked because I got a lot from the answer. So thank you so much.
Well, I've got much longer answers, but we don't have time.
Right. Yeah, thanks for hanging on with us a little over time. Yeah, at this point, again, just want to thank you, Dada, for joining us, for sharing all of these amazing teachings with us. I got a lot out of it, and I know our audience will as well. And again, just want to invite everyone to go to Dada's website, themonkdude.com, check out his new course, and again, for the next few days, there's a very incredible discount. If you want to jump on that, now's the best time to do that. And that link will be in your email or on the webpage on my site. So if you're interested in getting more, go to his website, themonkdude.com. And again, Dada, just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and share all these good things with me and our whole audience. It's been a real pleasure, and I've had a lot of fun. I think everyone has, and I hope you have too.
Oh, definitely. I love talking to you, Devin, and we'll talk some more soon, I hope.
All right. Yeah, let's do that. And looking forward to meet up in person as well.
Yeah. We got to get together.
All right. Great. Okay. Again, well, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you again down the road. Cheers.
For sure.
Bye now.